Every 4 years, the world stops for football. Flags cover the streets, stadiums turn into temples, families gather around screens. For 1 month, the World Cup feels bigger than business, bigger than politics, bigger than borders. But in 2026, this is not just a football tournament. It is 48 teams, it is 104 matches, it is 16 host cities across 3 countries. It is the biggest World Cup ever built. And behind the goals, the anthems, the sponsors, the sold-out stadiums, and the emotional celebrations, there is a number most fans never see. FIFA expects record revenues of around $13 billion in its current cycle. $13 billion. That is not just sport, that is an economy. And when an event becomes that big, the real question is not who wins the trophy. The real question is, when the World Cup makes billions, who actually pays the bill? This is the hidden cost of the World Cup. Part 1. The attention machine. The World Cup does not only sell football, it sells attention. For 1 month, attention from every continent moves toward one product. That attention becomes television rights, sponsorship packages, hospitality deals, tickets, merchandise, advertising, and political prestige. A match lasts 90 minutes, but the business around that match starts years before kickoff. Host cities prepare transport plans, police departments plan crowd control, airports prepare for waves of travelers, hotels adjust prices, sponsors buy visibility, broadcasters sell ads, governments promise economic impact. On the surface, this looks like a perfect machine. Football creates excitement, excitement creates tourism, tourism creates money, and everyone wins. But that is the marketing version. The finance version is colder. It asks where the money enters, who captures it, who absorbs the risk, and what remains after the cameras leave. Because a city can host the crowds without capturing the biggest revenue streams. It can provide the stage while someone else sells the show. That is the first hidden cost. Visibility does not always mean profit. Part 2. The money everyone can see. The visible money is easy to understand. Tickets, premium seats, hospitality packages, broadcast rights, global sponsors, official merchandise, corporate boxes, licensing deals. This is the shiny side of the World Cup economy. In Qatar 2022, FIFA reported more than 3.18 million tournament tickets sold, generating $686 million in ticketing revenue alone. Now, compare that with 2026. Qatar had 64 matches. The 2026 World Cup has 104. More teams, more games, more cities, more stadium inventory, more broadcast hours, more sponsorship moments, more hospitality packages, more ways to monetize attention, and to be fair, FIFA also redistributes money. For 2026, FIFA announced a record distribution of $871 million to the participating member associations. That means teams and national federations receive money for preparation, participation, and performance. But redistribution does not erase the bigger question. If the tournament creates billions at the top, why do host cities still need to carry so much of the operational weight? That is where the visible money ends, and the hidden bill begins. Part 3. The public bill. When people talk about World Cup revenue, they usually talk about tickets and sponsors. But when a city hosts the World Cup, the bill does not stop at the stadium gate. There is security, police overtime, emergency services, cybersecurity, traffic control, fan zones, sanitation, street closures, temporary infrastructure, legal planning, public transport, medical response, crowd management. None of that feels dramatic when a striker scores in the 89th minute, but all of it costs money. In the United States, FEMA awarded $875 million in grants to the 11 U.S. host cities to enhance security, cybersecurity, emergency response, and protection during the 2026 World Cup. Let's be clear, security matters. A global event with millions of fans needs planning. But financially, this creates a powerful contradiction. The event is commercial enough to generate billions, but public enough to require huge public preparation. In other words, the profit can behave private, while the risk behaves public. That does not automatically make the event bad, but it does mean taxpayers deserve to ask a very simple question. If the World Cup is such a profitable machine, why does so much of the operating burden land on public systems? Part 4. The tax break. Nobody cheers. Now comes the part that feels uncomfortable. A normal business sells a product and pays taxes. A normal fan buys a ticket and pays taxes. A normal city expects major events to create tax revenue for roads, schools, safety, and public services. But the World Cup is not normal. According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, cities hosting World Cup games will exempt sales tax from ticket prices. The same analysis estimated around $7.4 million in lost revenue for Florida from games in Miami, and up to $25 million in state and local sales taxes for games in Atlanta. That is the kind of detail that almost never appears in the promotional video. Fans see the trophy, cities see the brand exposure, politicians see the cameras, but a tax exemption is also a cost. It is money that would normally enter the public budget, but does not. And that creates the most uncomfortable sentence in this entire story. A billion-dollar tournament can still arrive asking for tax breaks. Is that illegal? Not necessarily. Is it normal for ordinary citizens and small businesses? Not at all. That is why this is not just a sports story. It is a power story. Part 5. The fan tax. There is also another tax, not an official tax, a fan tax. It shows up in hotel prices, flights, parking, food, transport, merchandise, resale fees, and most importantly, tickets. Reuters reported that face value tickets for the 2026 final in East Rutherford range from $2,030 to $6,370. For comparison, the 2022 final in Qatar ranged from $206 to $1,607. That is not a small increase. That is the emotional price of demand. And for the first time at a Men's World Cup, FIFA is using dynamic pricing. That means ticket prices can move depending on demand, inventory, and the popularity of the event. In plain English, when more people want the same seat, the price can climb. The fan is not just buying a ticket anymore, the fan is entering a pricing machine. And the more emotional the moment, the more expensive the machine can become. This is one of the great contradictions of modern football. The World Cup is marketed as the people's game, but the people are increasingly asked to pay luxury prices to touch it. Part 6. Small businesses and the economic impact myth. Host cities are often told the same story. The World Cup will bring tourists. Tourists will spend money. Restaurants will fill up. Hotels will sell out. Local businesses will win. And sometimes that is true. Some bars, hotels, restaurants, transport companies, event suppliers, and short-term rentals can make serious money. But economic activity is not the same as economic benefit. A city can be busy and still not keep the profits. Some spending simply replaces normal spending. A local person who spends $300 on a match may spend less at local businesses that month. Some tourists who would normally visit may avoid the city because prices are too high or streets are too crowded. Some revenue leaks out immediately because the hotel is part of an international chain, the sponsor is global, the ticketing platform is centralized, or the merchandise is produced somewhere else. Economists studying mega events have warned for years that projected economic impacts are often overstated. Victor Matheson's work on the economics of the World Cup notes that recent host countries such as Brazil and Russia spent around $12 billion putting on the tournament. So the question is not, did money move? Of course, money moved. The real question is, who captured it? Because if the biggest checks flow upward while the city handles traffic, policing, cleanup, and disruption, then the local economy may be hosting the party without owning the bar. Part 7. The dirty math. This is the section FIFA would probably prefer you skip, because the hidden cost of the World Cup is not only about money, it is about leverage. When a tournament becomes this valuable, it stops behaving like a normal event. A normal event rents space. The World Cup can demand special treatment. A normal ticket sale creates tax revenue. World Cup tickets can receive exemptions. A normal city contract should be easy for citizens to understand. Mega event contracts can be buried in legal language, host committees, redactions, and negotiations most fans will never read. A normal business carries its own risk. The World Cup can move part of that risk into public systems. This is the dirty math. Public risk, private upside, global emotion, local bill. And there is another reason people are skeptical. FIFA carries a documented corruption history. In 2015, the U.S. Department of Justice announced charges against FIFA officials and corporate executives in a corruption case involving racketeering conspiracy, bribery, fraud, and money laundering. The indictment alleged that officials conspired to solicit and receive well over $150 million in bribes and kickbacks connected to media and marketing rights for international football tournaments. That does not prove the 2026 World Cup is corrupt, but it explains why the public has learned to ask harder questions. Because when an institution with that history asks cities for special treatment, tax breaks, and public support, skepticism is not cynicism. Part 8. The human cost. Some costs never appear on a spreadsheet. They appear in working hours, injuries, wage theft, recruitment debt, families separated for years, workers who build the stage but never get a seat in the celebration. Qatar 2022 became the clearest warning sign. Human Rights Watch documented demands for compensation for migrant workers and families affected by wage theft, injuries, and unexplained deaths connected to preparations for the tournament. Amnesty International urged FIFA to set aside at least $440 million for a compensation program for migrant workers who suffered abuses in Qatar. That number matters because it translates moral language into financial language. If a tournament can generate billions, then remedy is not a charity question. It is a balance sheet question. Who paid the human price to make the event possible? Who benefited from their labor? And who was responsible when the cameras moved on? This is why the hidden cost of the World Cup is not only economic, it is ethical. Because when deadlines, sponsors, governments, and global broadcasters all demand perfection, the people with the least power often carry the most pressure. Closing no filters. So no, this video is not saying you should hate the World Cup. That would be too easy, and honestly, too boring. The World Cup creates joy. It creates memories. It brings people together. It turns strangers into one crowd. It gives countries a reason to believe for 90 minutes. But joy does not erase the invoice. Passion does not cancel economics. And a full stadium does not automatically mean a good deal for the city outside it. The World Cup is football's biggest show, but it is also a business model built on attention, emotion, public infrastructure, private revenue, and political prestige. For fans, it is a dream. For sponsors, it is visibility. For broadcasters, it is content. For FIFA, it is a global empire. For cities, it is a gamble. And for taxpayers, workers, small businesses, and ordinary fans, it can become a bill they never saw coming. So here is the moral of the story. Love the game. Celebrate the goals. Enjoy the magic. But never confuse the spectacle with the deal. Because the World Cup may belong to everyone emotionally, but financially, not everyone gets to play on the same field.